All right, so if you've been living under a rock, which I hope you haven't been, by the way, because that does not sound fun, you know that yesterday on Sunday was the Super Bowl. And anytime you think Super Bowl, Mike, there's always a unique trivia question for UCF fans. Mike, I'll ask you right now, who was the first former Knight to win a Super Bowl ring? UCF Mike, do you know the answer?
I do know the answer. I've known this
Okay.
answer for a few years now, because every year around Super Bowl time, the question comes up, and I hear it again. We actually had the last 2 years, UCF has had somebody win the Super Bowl, right? Just
True.
yesterday, it was who was it yesterday? It wasn't Frank?
Jordan Franks.
Jordan
Yeah,
Franks was
Jordan Franks.
yesterday, and
And I
then
believe
last year was Harris.
I believe Matt Wright's going to get a ring too because he was on the team for a couple of games this year. So I think Matt Wright will also get a ring for his contribution. But the correct answer to that trivia question is who, Mike?
Mike Gruttadauria.
And that is our guest this week. He played at UCF from 1991 to 1994. Famously won a ring in the 1990-2000 season with the greatest show on turf, St. Louis Rams. We'll get to all that in a second. But, Michael, first off, man, thanks so much for taking the time, joining us on the show. We were talking pre-show. We love having guys from your era on, man. So thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Well, I really appreciate it. And thank you from all the guys in my era. Thank you for showing us some love.
Well, let's start here. I love to ask this question right out of the gate. So your bio, I know you moved around a little bit, but it's kind of your last stop pre-college was Tarpon Springs. So you're kind of local there to the Orlando area. But how does a kid out of Tarpon Springs find his way to UCF playing football? Tell us the backstory, how you got to UCF.
So I excelled at football, even though I only played 1 year of organized sports. My senior year in high school, my brother was older than me. So when he graduated, I hung out with his friends that were younger. So finally, I had no friends at high school. I said, I'll try this football thing. And because we played a lot of backyard football, I was pretty athletic. I made the team as a receiver, kept getting a little bigger, moved to tight end. I believe, forgive me for not knowing exactly, I was first team all West Coast Florida or something. And that didn't bring colleges around by no means. No one would put their job on the line for a 1 year guy that may or may not have gotten lucky being successful at the high school level. But what it did was give me the respect of the coaches that had friends that were coaching. So they put their word on the line and drove me to colleges. And the one that seemed to like me the most was UCF. And I fell in love with Orlando immediately, being a kid that grew up in Fort Lauderdale for a bit. And when Dad would drive us in the family truckster with his cowboy hat on and shorts and boots to Disney World, I fell in love with UCF.
Well, describe the UCF that you found when you were there circa 1990, 1991. Obviously, those listening to us now see the on-campus stadium, dorms everywhere. What is the UCF that Michael Gruttadauria was greeted with when he got to Orlando in 1990, 1991?
Well, it would probably be what UCF looked like if Armageddon hit, because there was no life at all around campus. While there was still a lot of fun to be had, and I often say that if you're bored at UCF or in Orlando, it's because you're a boring person. So we had a lot of fun, but there all along University Avenue, it was CBI, a gas station, and then you hit the school pretty much until you hit Cimarron going east. But still a very fun, continuously under construction college. But I see glimpses of what it used to be, and I love the nostalgia in it. I love that some of the things that were there are still there, and they might have been repurposed. But I love that it's not the let's tear it down and build completely new type of construction and growth that administration is doing there. But what a great college. I fell in love with it. It's beautiful. I love where it's going now. I love the on-campus stadium. I feel that if there's one thing I can change in my college career, and I'm sure our foes to the West feel the same way, how do you not have the true college experience without having an on-campus stadium? So that's the one thing I think guys from my era are truly jealous of.
You don't miss the Citrus Bowl at all?
Not even close. You got to remember, I think we maybe had 6,000 fans, which looked even less in a 70,000-foot stadium. So while it was neat when you went there on a recruiting trip, wow, this is awesome, this is great, never full. Not even close. Somewhat depressing.
Yeah. You got to play under Coach McDowell and Mike Kruzek's offense. What do you remember about how complex that offense was with Kruzek?
Oh, I loved it. But the greatest thing about it is I felt as a a rookie free agent coming to the NFL, I was more prepared than my peers that played at what's now referred to as Power 5 institutions or colleges, because we ran Mike Kruzek's pro-style offense. So there wasn't much of a learning curve when you're learning some of the systems in a pro offense. There's some terminology changes, but boy, we hit the ground running when you went to UCF under the Mike Kruzek offense into the NFL, which lets me think of something else. You led with who was the first UCF grad to win a Super Bowl. Is it a question, a trivia question? Who's the first UCF grad to play in a Super Bowl?
Is
he was my
it
mentor.
Also you?
Pardon me?
Is it also you, or somebody lose one?
It's Sean Jefferson who lost it at receiver. He played for the Patriots at that point, but he held my hand going into the NFL and let me be extremely confident that, Mike, listen, you'll understand. Yeah, it's a small school. Yes, it's 1AA. Mike Cruz is a pro quarterback. You learned an offense that's probably harder than some of the offenses out here right now in the early 90s in the pros. So, boy, I was absolutely blessed to not only go to UCF but have an OC like Mike Kruzek, but also a head coach like Gene McDowell that saw a tight end who thought he was going to be catching touchdowns for the Knights, transformed into a center that, obviously he had the eye for that. I felt bummed, and that's a good story. You asked me about good stories. I remember when Gene McDowell brought me into his office. He says, Mike, we've been watching you for your redshirt year, and you're doing a great job blocking. Yeah, your routes are okay, but so-and-so's a little fast, or a little break here, but we think we got a better position for you. And at that point, I was rooming with Greg Jefferson, a defensive lineman, and we hung out, me, Greg, and Charles a little bit as a linebacker. So I thought for sure I was moving to linebacker. And I said, well, that's great as long as I get to touch the ball every now and then, thinking I intercept interceptions or cause fumbles. Oh, you'll be touching it a lot more than you think, son. And he moved me to center. And it's a funny. I cherish that because I don't think I'd be sitting here today if Gene McDowell and Mike Kruzek didn't see a center in a guy. And how can they be wrong when a guy like me with no football background didn't play a single organized sport till my senior year in high school? And they said, that kid's a center. And I'm able to make a living at it and live a great lifestyle now and raise my family because of what Gene McDowell and Mike Kruzek saw.
But you don't seem like you were too thrilled with it, the idea right away, right? How long did it take you to get used to it?
Once you hang out with an offensive line, there's no going back. I think if you take, because even right now I coach high school football and we'll talk to some kids and big tight ends. Oh, I'll quit. I don't play offensive line. I'll quit. Because for whatever reason, it has the negative connotation that that's where the kids that just can't play football go. In my mind, no one goes to watch a football game to watch skinny guys throw a football to skinny guys. They go to watch a UFC battle of heavyweights, 5 matches going on at once. That's what I want to see. The heavyweights are always the main card in fights, whether it's the boxing game or the mixed martial arts game. It's always at the end. And that's what we are. We're the main event, the offensive line versus defensive line. And if I had my way, we'd have cameras not on the matchups on the outside. We'd have 5 cameras on the battles from defensive end, right tackle, all the way over to left tackle, defensive end, with commentators discussing each matchup of every play.
Judges? Like boxing judges?
Well, I don't think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks and kickers that vote for that. But if you lived life in the trenches or an offensive line or defensive line meeting room, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
You had to play pretty early on, too, at that position. How long did it take you before you really felt comfortable? And was there like a welcome to college football moment where you did something and you went back to the huddle and you went, man, I'm going to get chewed out for that one?
That's probably happened more often than you think, that you're going to get chewed out for something. But to be 100% honest with you, I did not feel truly comfortable with the center position probably until my 3rd year in the NFL. I think I survived at UCF because I had smart guards, senior guards, Doug Schoen and Buster Mills, Alexander, Buster Mills, flanking me on either side at guards. And they helped me out a lot and mentored me. And there's no way I'm here today or in the UCF Hall of Fame if it wasn't for them. And they helped me out just enough in my freshman year starting and my sophomore year starting to where my junior year, I think I faked it. I really did. I couldn't tell you what a slot blitz was or 4-2 front was, or a nickel back coming in, or a 6-2 defense. I just knew what my job was and try to get that guy on the ground. If you get him on the ground, go to the next one. But not until, 2 or 3 years in the NFL did it start making sense. Till you realized how all the pieces moved and their responsibilities. Then at that point, it was like the world slowed down and I sped up and my game just increased.
You mentioned Gene McDowell earlier. What kind of coach was he? How would you describe Coach McDowell? Was he a player's coach? Was he a hard ass? Was he, a little bit in between? Was he an X's and O's guy? How would you describe Coach McDowell?
I think he was everything. I think he was the coach, the maintenance man, the administrator, the booster president, the iron fist, the dad while you're away. He wore a lot of hats, and it's, I don't think I'm the only one that would say UCF would not even be close to where it is if it wasn't for Gene McDowell and what he did for this program and some of his friends and associates helping our program in those early days. But guys were afraid of him without a doubt. He was absolutely the iron fist when it came to discipline, if it needed to be, but also he was right there giving you the praise or giving you a ride if you had to go see your parents or something and nothing was going on. I don't know if that was legal back then or whatever, but he was your father from away from home, and you always wanted to try to impress dad, but you were dang sure afraid of him and didn't want to let him down. 100%.
What about your quarterback back then, Darren Hinshaw, who's now the offensive coordinator at UCF? He's back. What do you remember about him, his style of play, and what he was like in the meetings and things like that?
I remember him being extremely confident. Now, I think he started most definitely my junior and senior year, we started together. But I think those early years, it might have been, I'm going back now. I can't remember the names, but I don't think it was Darren. But I think what Darren had the positives to sit behind some other quarterbacks and learn, and not just the X's and O's, but the leadership styles of these quarterbacks. Because the one thing I remember from him, and when you played for as long as I have, and you've been with many different kinds and types of players from different backgrounds, you see some quarterbacks that are confident in their skin, that don't panic, understand the system, and it keeps you calm. To me, there was probably 2.5, 3 of them. One was Darren, one was Kurt Warner, and one was Jake the Snake Plummer. And I've snapped balls to Troy Aikman, Garrett, Rippon, many quarterbacks. But those 3 stand out in my mind as being just cool as a cucumber. Hey, calm down, calm down. We still got 18 seconds on the clock. O-line, catch your breath. I'm going to call the play here in about 5 more seconds. And okay, here we go. We're going to go, and just that kind of deal where he understood, what it's like to be a fat guy having to never get a chance to come off the field, and just being real cool and basically being the coach on the field. And anyone that played in my era and before have been waiting for this day for our guy, Hinshaw, Coach Hinshaw, to come back to UCF and help us get us where we want to be. 100%.
He made a comment the other day that back then there wasn't much shotgun. Everything was under center. And now today, everything is shotgun. How much of a difference does that make for you as a center? Did you prefer one way over the other?
Well, that seems like a loaded question. Do I prefer underneath or shotgun? I prefer what gets the job done. But I'll tell you this, coaching high school football, we haven't gone under center a single time in the last 3 years. Not even in short yardage. We still snap shotgun. I think it's a disservice a little bit, but if that's what the flavor is in college, we're going to do that in high school. And colleges are going to do what the flavor is in the pros. But right now it seems to be the mostly shotgun, RPOs, fast style offense, motions. And I think there's probably less room for error with a shotgun than an underneath snap. There's it's a quick exchange. And if you got someone big over you and you got to have the center use both of his hands in a very quick amount of time, then that can lead for a problem. You got a quarterback, and I don't like to say names. I don't think this quarterback would be mad at me, but a quarterback from Michigan State that I snapped to, his name was Tony Banks with the Rams. He was a high pick of ours in St. Louis. Smallest hands. I think my wife has bigger hands than him. So when he drops a snap, it's never his fault. Never. It's always our fault. Doesn't matter. You could put a slow-mo camera on it. You could see the ball come up, hit the quarterback's hands, fall straight down, get the ball up centers. But we'll do it. We'll keep those guys happy so the cameras can always stay on them.
I want to dive in a little bit to some of the games you played, and one that I think some fans have seen sort of the rumors and the talk about on social media, but who obviously weren't there to see this. In 1992, you all played an exhibition against the Moscow Bears. What can you tell us about that? What do you remember about that? Because it was in the middle of the season. This wasn't like a preseason thing. This was like smack dab in like October. What do you remember about playing the Moscow Bears in 1992?
I don't remember a thing of the game. Not a thing. You know what I remember? I remember those guys wanted to trade for anything. After the game, they were also at the Collegiate Village Inn back then, and they had suitcases of a popular drink from Russia. And they wanted American jeans, American T-shirts, and it was a 1-for-1 trade. So I'm sure a lot of us got that iron fist from McDowell after that because our dorm rooms were loaded with bottles, if you will. But it was fun. I believe it was a little bit intimidating because that team was made up of Olympians and former Olympians, and being kids going against, and this was grown men, by the way. This wasn't a college football team. This was guys that were between 25 and 35 that won a gold medal for powerlifting or the clean and jerk or a javelin at quarterback and a 100-meter at receiver. So it was a little intimidating, but it didn't translate to football. I don't remember the score, but I know it was, embarrassing 70-3 or something. And I don't even know if that's correct. I just remember it was embarrassing. But going into it, intimidating, extremely fun hanging out with those guys after.
It was actually 42-6. You guys beat the Moscow Bears in front of an alleged crowd at the Citrus Bowl of 54,112 people. So just kidding. 5,000 people showed up. That's it.
That's actually recorded in the book.
No, just kidding. 5,000 people showed up to watch you play the Moscow Bears.
That might be the whole year. That might be the cumulative year of 92.
So was that game on the schedule at the beginning of the year? Was it like, as you guys got your schedule, were you like Gardner Webb, Bethune, Troy, Moscow, or was that something that was added in?
I think it was added. I think it was something Coach McDowell was working on. I just remember there was those times back then. The seasons were always in a state of flux. Games being added, games being canceled. The World League had just taken up, so there was teams coming in and out of CBI. Are we playing them? Is this guy coming on the team? I just always felt like the seasons were in a world of flux until you got towards those 1AA playoffs. Did you know what was going on? But I don't recall if it was on the schedule and if we were excited about it. I don't. Sorry, man.
Back then, who did you guys consider to be your rival? Who were the schools that year in and year out you knew you were going to play and you knew you wanted to be?
This might be different for everybody, but the one that sticks out to me, and maybe it's because they were the ones that were having the most success in the 1AA back then, was Georgia Southern. Now, I don't think we played them a lot, but I know I'd always look where Georgia Southern was on the rankings and everything. And when we did get an opportunity to play them, I believe we played them at least once, maybe twice. But for me, it was Georgia Southern. But we also played, the James Madisons, I think a couple times, the Liberty University a couple times. But those might be probably more of a consensus of a rivalry game. But for me, it was Georgia Southern, without a doubt, because they were the best and you want to beat the best.
Yeah, you played them in 91. They beat us 20-6.
20-6. Was it in the playoffs?
No, right before the playoffs. I don't think you qualified for the playoffs that year. It was a 6-5 season.
Oh,
sorry.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But your senior year, you guys were ranked number 1 in the preseason going into the year. And the season didn't go as well as we thought. But what do you remember about that team, the talent that was on that team with you guys?
I remember that a lot of guys got a chance to try to make it in the NFL. Darren Hinshaw, Mark Whittemore, myself, Ray Forsythe, Greg Jefferson, Charles Anderson, Todd Cleveland. Oh, Todd Cleveland was later. But just a lot of guys. And I remember thinking, like, because when I first went into college, keep in mind, I don't have a football background going into college. So I'm on campus and we're playing. I'm like, well, when do we get to play these Gator guys? And they're always in the paper. Miami, oh my God, these guys, they're getting all this publicity. When can we play them? Like, we're not in the same league. I'm like, what do you mean? We're both in Florida. We'll play football. You know, thinking maybe it's like high school. Why can't we just go down there and play them? So I didn't understand how all that worked with the different conferences and leagues and whatnot, because I didn't have the football background. But I lost my train of thought, man, thinking about that. Shit, Mike, what'd you ask me?
Just basically how good was that team? Because we were ranked number 1 going into the year, and you mentioned all the guys.
Going into the year, yes, ranked number 1. Going into the year, at that point, you know, I'm thinking we're going to win the 1AA championship, of course. You know, I don't remember if it was injuries or what transpired during that season. I believe it was still a good season. We still made the playoffs, right? Second round.
I'm not sure.
94. I don't believe. I don't believe you guys.
About that 1AA football.
I actually don't think you made the playoffs in 94. You made it in 93, but you did not make it in 94.
Hence the higher ranking going in. What an underachievement. I'm going to choose to remember we went to the playoffs and beat Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern had our number. I think we've only beat them once ever. I think they're like 10-1
ever.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we had a better record versus the SEC than Georgia Southern.
That's true.
So you go into the draft, you go undrafted, and then you sign with the Cowboys, right?
Yes,
did you get to meet Jerry Jones that day, or how did that work when they gave you that call?
I think, and once again, guys, forgive me, this is going way back, and this is not stuff I talk about all the time, so I might be fuzzy on the facts. But I remember he flew in a private jet to pick me up. No, that's not the case at all. So draft day, so I'm seeing Greg Jefferson, my roommate, getting drafted in the 3rd round, and I'm a realist. I'm not Greg Jefferson. He was 280 pounds, ran a 4.5 40. I wasn't that guy. I was an undersized center, kind of a niche guy. But because Dallas Cowboys had an undersized center in Mark Stepnoski, who at the time weighed less than me, I thought that might be a possibility. And when Joe Avisano, the special teams coach, was calling me throughout the draft on the 2nd day, he said, Mike, we're talking. We might take you pick 6, this or that. Can you long snap? Yes, I got long snap. Can you cover kicks? I'll do whatever you need. Just draft me. And they wound up going someone else. And then come the 7th round, same calls coming up. Wound up going somewhere else, picking another player. But what I respected about the organization is they apologized for not picking me. And then they gave me a signing bonus that was more than the 7th round, but less than the 6th round. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, I could dig that. But you had just mentioned that Wright might get a ring for being on the practice squad for a couple weeks. Well, I was on the practice squad for the 95 Dallas Cowboys for a couple weeks, and I don't got no ring. So if that does happen, I'd like to send in a petition. You know, it's funny because I did see Switzer in Canton one year. We're on the same flight and everything. And he goes, no, we should have never let you go, Groot. They had to let me go. They needed to sign. They actually cut the whole practice squad to free up chump change to pay Deion Sanders. What is what it is. But, you know, he gave me his ring in jest. No, you deserve one. Here you go. You had a great career. I would have loved to have kept it. But if Wright gets one, I'm probably going to write Switzer and Jerry Jones. But did I meet Steven or Jerry at the time? No, I just talked to the coaches, went in, and they made me feel very special. That at the time it wasn't that popular. Reality TV in the 90s, you know, it's non-existent. But when I showed up in Valley Ranch, there was a film crew, and Steven asked me to sign off on some things that they wanted to follow me around all through training camp, all through Austin, on the away games and locker rooms, in the dorms when I'm eating, and talk about an undrafted kid getting paid a lot of money and now following on the film crew on a team that has the Michael Irvings, the Emmitt Smiths, Troy Aikmans, Charles Haley. I felt like a star. So what a great experience, a great organization. They tried to sign me the following year, but Deke Pollard, who had coached at UCF, Don Deke Pollard at defensive line, was coaching for St. Louis. And I felt like, my odds are probably better. We're a guy that's seen me work and understands my work ethic and my drive and determination. I might have a better chance to not be on the practice squad on that team. And I didn't get to start every game, but every year in the NFL, I began as the starter. injuries suck, but that's just the way the game is.
Yeah, you actually sat out a year in between the Dallas and the St. Louis signing. What was that? What was
Yeah.
that year like for you out of football? Were you kind of like, hey, the dream's dead, or were you like, hey, I'm not giving up
No.
until I get my one more shot in the NFL?
No, I gave myself what I considered a realistic 3-year window to try to make it in the NFL, and it wasn't going to be NFL or nothing. I would play anywhere. I got my passport. I was going to go play in the World League. When Coach Pollard gave me a call, he says, no, they don't want to send you to the World League. They've seen your film. I had a lot of film from Dallas in the preseason games. I had some film I borrowed on the old beta tapes that I sent to Don from One-on-One Pass Pro versus Russell Maryland and Leon Lett that I did well on my One-on-One Pass Pro. So I felt like he was going to go to bat for me, and I had a really good chance making it with the at that time it was the first year in St. Louis, the St. Louis Rams, and that's why I chose that. But that time off between being cut from Dallas and getting back on the phone with the St. Louis Rams was pretty much an NFL season. Maybe 12 weeks of a season and a little bit after till the Super Bowl. But I was prepared to do whatever it took. I was working in a garbage tire recycling facility, and it was kind of funny. When I made it starting the next year, Jerry Glanville was one of the commentators. And I don't remember the play. I just remember what he said, like, look at this guy. 3 weeks ago, he was tossing tires in a garbage facility, and now he's tossing defensive linemen, And once again, for a kid that from a small school where we're not getting TV coverage, you're not being followed around by cameras. And it was kind of neat. And I felt like, yeah, you work hard, you keep your dream alive, you do the right thing, and good things will happen. And I just felt that's the epitome of what I was. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It was a shitty job, man. I was the rookie in this facility. And when you are collecting garbage tires from sites, it's gross. Forget about if it's a mud-infested swamp with mosquitoes all over it. That's the easy job. The hard job is collecting the urban tires. And here's why. You go behind a building, there's a stack of tires. They send a new guy to pick them up. So when you start picking up these tires, you're not picking up tires. You're picking up a homeless person's bathroom, toilet, if you will. And then you got to work the rest of the day with that all over your legs because you didn't know better. But you just keep focusing. You grab the heaviest tires. You do overhead presses, curls, keep working, get off work, go get a shower, go work out. Weekends, get on the field and do your job, man. But still a path I wouldn't change at all. I love my roommate, Greg Jefferson. We're still friends to this day. He teaches in Ocoee. He was able to have a seamless transition to the NFL, start and play a lot for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I wouldn't change mine for the world. I love having to earn everything you get. Everything I got wasn't handed to me. I earned it. And if I could jump forward to Dick Vermeil when he got his job with the Rams, it's an honor to have to be one of the centers to have won a Super Bowl. But something that I hold near to my heart, which I think is just as a big of accomplishment, is it's myself and 5 others that were on that team from when before Vermeil came. So in 1996 season, it was Coach Rich Brooks. Kevin Carter was the #1 draft pick. And Isaac Bruce was drafted the year before. A couple other guys. Brooks gets fired. Next season, Vermeil comes, cleans house. Half the guys are cut. The next season, half that were left, more than half of those are cut. The third season, another, till all that's left is me and 6 other dudes, that were on that team that were able to stay there, work hard, prove who we were every day, and be on Vermeil's team and start to win a Super Bowl. That's what I love that, because that to me is the epitome of my career.
Well, take us to that moment. Obviously, you mentioned a lot of stuff in your career, right? Injuries, being out of the league for a while. You're on the what's now known as the greatest show on turf team, 13-3, and all of a sudden, you're in Atlanta holding up a Super Bowl trophy. What can you take us to that moment in time when that trophy gets to your hands and kind of the emotions that you felt when everything you'd been through, and now you're standing there at the pinnacle of pro football?
Well, well, what you said is everything going through your mind. All the hard work and sweat that not only you go through, but if you're married, your wife goes through, your family, if you live by family, goes through, because it's not just a singular achievement. It's a household daily hurdle to have to go over every day, and all these little challenges and little goals and little steps that you have to win just to get through a week, and then to stack those weeks up on top of each other to be able to even have a chance to play for a championship. It's the pinnacle. There is absolutely no better feeling than to hear that final whistle and then feel the tickling of all that confetti all over your face and arms, and it's your colors. For me, it was blue and gold, man. St. Louis Rams colors, and that was mine. I earned that. And I always get chills, and a lot of us come Super Bowl week text each other and reminisce and share videos we haven't seen in years, and who had a video camera here or in the hallway or in the locker room or at the facility or at the after party. It's great to get on the phone with players and coaches and reminisce about what a great event and a great time in all of our lives. It really is.
Well, that game specifically had one of the craziest endings in Super Bowl history, down to the 1-inch line. Mike Jones saves the day. You're on offense. You're not on the field. What's going through your head during those last couple of seconds? There was 6 seconds to go when that last play went off, right?
I believe so. But from our vantage point, where the offensive line's bench was the end zone to where the Titans were going to score. So we had a little better vantage point than maybe the defense did on their side of the field. But even from our vantage point, we couldn't tell if Dyson made it or not. We saw the reach was his knee down, but I think it was quickly shown on the Jumbotron where we saw it. And, I think the cannons made up the mind for us, because the cannons go off. You could see it's red and yellow, and we're all cheering. So we know we won. And, thank you for letting me relive that, because it was really awesome, man. But even before that, when we went out there with a minute or 2 minutes and 11 seconds left back on offense after we lost the lead, and we score on a one-play balloon to Isaac Bruce, I thought game over there. I didn't even realize that there's still, a minute and change on the clock, and our defense is getting worn down. But I can't help, because you make friends as you retire, to feel bad for the guys on the other side, how hard it is to have to make it all that way and not come away with the trophy, especially in a game like last night when two extremely evenly matched teams play such good football in the trenches. I guess there was some good throws and catches too. I don't look at that, but there was some great fighting going on between offense and defensive lines, to where I just feel bad for the guys in Philly not being able to get the dub, but someone's got to get it and someone's got to lose.
How often do you relive that? Because as a fan, I'm a Giants fan, and growing up, I would rewatch the Super Bowl 25. I had it on tape. I rewatched it all the time, even the ones with Eli recently. But you, in the game, how many times have you rewatched that game yourself?
Quite a few. Now, not so much right after, because I still played another 3 or 4 years of football in the NFL. And then when I retired, I was raising kids. But I would say from 10 years out to now, obviously come Super Bowl week comes out, and my son right now is playing high school football. I coach him down here in Riverview, the Riverview Rams. So apropos, here in Sarasota, Florida. And he's had an unofficial visit to UCF. He's still got to get a little bigger and stronger. But we relive it every year, and I love showing my son, because it helps him reestablish his goals. And his goals are to be a better player than his pop. Do more things. And he is a better player. Shoot, he has a way better coach at his age than I had at mine. He's only a junior. I didn't even touch a football organized at his age.
Take us back. One day your phone rings, Michael, and on the other end, somebody tells you on that phone that you are going to be inducted to the UCF Hall of Fame. What was that phone call like? Take us back to that memory when you found out you're going to be a Hall of Famer at UCF.
For me, it was huge because I'm a realist. I know what I am. I'm not an NFL Hall of Famer. I am a supporting artist, if you will. The Kurt Warners and Marshall Faulks are the A-list talent. So I know what I am. There's no NFL Hall of Fame for me. But being able to be, I wasn't even thinking about the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. But to be inducted in it, what a great honor. I absolutely loved it. I love it today that I'm part of it. I love that I probably get during the season about a dozen and a half pictures of my banner up in our stadium. And that is only because I was selected into the UCF Hall of Fame, and it's my career gets no higher. So yes, this is a great achievement, winning a Super Bowl, because I earned that, but having my peers and fellow alum select me to be part of that esteemed group in the UCF Hall of Fame, I hold that just as high, brothers. I really do.
And then I think I have this right. You came back in 2013. You spent some time on the broadcast crew. You and Mark Daniels worked together for a season in 2013. By the way, great luck out of you, because 1999 Rams, 2013 Knights, obviously some really big teams. How did you enjoy your season sort of in the broadcast booth and calling games for UCF?
I loved it. And there's no better teacher and no one better at that craft than Mark Daniels. When I first was introduced to maybe getting the job, my first call was to Dick Vermeil, because he did it for a dozen years on the professional level. And he coached me up on how to do it, how to prepare, how to do my notes, the stats to write down, the things to say, the things not to say. If the things that you accidentally say this after. A great coach. And that was one time. But I had that every week from Mark Daniels. And when I first started, he'd critique me. We'd talk about it. And I'm a good student. I'm coachable. I'd learn. And I'd like to think that I did a great job. I loved it. It's also one of the best experiences of my life. Although I'd love to petition to get bigger radio broadcast booths across every stadium in every conference, because those are, especially if you're a moderately big guy, 6'4", I think at the time I was probably 270. That is a little space. I felt like Chris Farley, big guy in a little coat squeezing here, and you got all your notes and stuff taped all over the place, and you're trying to watch the game from a weird angle. You could sure use another foot or two in those things, but a great time.
There was one game I remember. Actually, I sat right below you guys at FIU. Remember that? And they had a tent. You guys sat at the top of the stadium under a tent.
Up in the corner on the promenade with binoculars to see what's going on. I'm sure I faked my way through that game, not seeing the numbers or who's doing the plays or whatever. That's where I let Mark and his expertise take over, I'm sure.
But you didn't do it for long, right?
T.Y. Hilton. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So you only did it, was it that 1 year or 2 years you did it?
I think I did it for 5.
Really?
I had that much of an impact on you, huh? Thank you, Mike.
I thought it was only a couple, but you haven't done it for a while now. How come you just prefer coaching?
In all honesty, I joke about how small that booth was. I would drive 2 hours from Siesta Key over here to Orlando. From Orlando, we'd bus to the airport. From the airport, we'd fly, and I'm not a player now. I'm just part of the supporting staff, and I'm the rookie. So I got the middle seat in the back of the plane. And then when you're done with the middle seat in the back of the plane, you get to go into the broadcast booth. So after so many seasons, my knees were already shot. I was coaching also at the IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Did that for 6 or 7 years, and it overlapped with the radio show. But my knees were done. So I just had to bow out from coaching for a while, tell Mark I had to go, and I started getting things replaced. Got my knee replaced, my hip replaced, my shoulders redone. I'm a new man. So you never know. Maybe in the future, Mark wants to invite me back. I might love to do it. I mean, I absolutely would love to do it, without a doubt.
So you were in the booth for that 2015 season?
Yes, sir.
What did you talk about?
I think what's that?
What did you talk about? We didn't win a game that year. What did you talk about that season when you're in the broadcast?
Oh no. Thank God. No. I was not here with that season.
Okay.
No. Thank God. I think my last season. Geez, I would have looked this up if I even thought we would talk about it. Honestly, to God, I don't remember my last season. I remember I was there for the Jeff Godfrey, for Blake Bortles, for the win at Georgia, Liberty Bowl win at Georgia. A lot of big games, a lot of fun games, all Conference USA games. But I don't remember the exact years. I really don't.
Well, that should be 2010 to like 2014 then, if you're covering.
Yeah, it was probably maybe 09 to 14 or 15, but it definitely wasn't the winless year. No, it was not.
Were you at the game with the Hail Mary at East Carolina?
I was there.
14. Okay, so that was probably your last game.
I was there. Rashad, that was great.
Yeah.
That was superb, man. I loved it. You know what I didn't like? The only thing I didn't like, Leary's been nothing but nice to me. I felt he just looked a little too surprised. Just a little, oh shit, that worked. I guess we won. You know, walk with a big stick, but pretend like you've been there before. You know.
Well, he smiled. That was probably the only
time he's ever
smiled.
Yeah, first time you ever saw a smile on his face.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Look, you've been really generous with your time, but before we let you out of here, I know you got a hard stop. We end every interview with what we call rapid fire questions. We ask you anything about music, movies, sports, food, your teammates. It's all rapid fire off the top of our head. So here's some rapid fire questions for you. So put yourself back in your time at UCF as a player.
I'm extremely nervous right now, just so you know.
These will be the easiest questions you face all night. Put yourself back in the time as a player, 91 to 94. It's a night out. It's a Friday, Saturday night. You and the guys want to go someplace and have a good time. Where do you go? Take me back to 1993, 94. Where are you and the fellows going to have a good time around UCF?
Well, number one, we probably went to someone's room at CVI. But if nothing was going on there, we probably went to the Night Outs pub.
Can you describe for people who don't know?
Crazy
Can you describe CVI for people who don't know what that is? Mike and I remember from our time there. Can you describe what CVI is?
Well, CVI is an acronym for the Collegiate Village Inn, which is simply just an off-campus dormitory. It was at the time one building shaped like a horseshoe with a pool in the middle, with all the rooms on 3 levels facing into the courtyard and then out to the parking lot. So you just walk around, a lot of rooms, doors open, a lot of guys, and it was a facility for only athletes. So it wasn't just football, it was girls and boys basketball, track, volleyball, every sport, baseball was housed there, and was all big happy sports family, and there was always a party going on. So that was probably your first venture to look for something to do, was walking around looking for a party at CVI, and then seeing who wanted to drive to get you off campus. But like I said about loving Orlando, once you get out of your freshman year and you have a car, you got things down, it's no longer there anymore. But we go to Pleasure Island. That was a blast. When you're an 18-year-old kid going to Pleasure, and nothing but bars and nightclubs and dancing and really good looking people. That was a blast too. And if nothing's going on there, you go to Church Street Station, which was I think it's probably not like what it was back then now, but still, then there's downtown Orlando. I mean, it's just a great experience overall. The Orlando as a whole, UCF Orlando as a whole, great experience. Always something to do.
All right, we're living in a little bit of a scary time right now. We're shooting down things from the sky that nobody's telling us what it is. Do you believe in aliens?
100%, without a doubt. Too much space for us to be the only ones. Too much.
You think what we shot down the other day was a UFO of some sort? They're not telling us.
I don't think. Oh my goodness, I dropped it. Sorry. Like I said, this isn't my.
The aliens heard you about to give the story, and they knocked that thing down.
There's been sightings for the last 70 years, and we've had great aircraft, the stealth bomber, the F-22 fighter, all these things. But now we can send up a Canadian bomber and some northern fighter, and now we take down a UFO. I just don't think. I think it's not an alien the way that we would think it's aliens. I don't want to get political. I think it's probably just like things it was prior.
But they are.
Right.
But I do believe in aliens.
Thinking back to your time at UCF and your team is at UCF, right? If you were driving on the road tomorrow night and your car breaks down and you can only make one phone call to a former UCF teammate who you know is going to come drive out and pick your ass up and take you home with a broken car, you get one phone call, who you calling to come pick you up?
Big John Moore. He was a big right tackle from Port St. Lucie. He was just everyone's best friend, a great guy all around, and also one of my roommates. And it wouldn't just be me calling him. It'd be a lot of guys reaching out to John for help, without a doubt.
A lot of talk this morning about the halftime show yesterday. Rihanna did it pregnant. What's your favorite halftime show that you can remember? The best one?
There's so many good ones. I really enjoyed the one last year with all the rap artists. I felt that was songs from my era, and Eminem and those guys. But I got to stay true to Tina Turner in my halftime show for Super Bowl 34 in 2000.
But you didn't get to watch it, did you?
No. Oh, I still watched it after the fact.
All right.
But how can that not be my favorite?
Good point.
All right, so true or false? After a while, you got sick of the Kurt Warner grocery store story. True or false?
True.
Okay,
Next question. Who isn't? Who isn't? Come on.
Did you guys at least make fun of him for that? Did you have him?
I guarantee you, I don't, Adam, Mike, I don't know your backstory. This podcast looks great. You have your own grocery story at some point to get you where you are. And the fact of the matter is that the NFL is made up of stories like that, but they don't want to come down into the pits, where the real fighting's going on because they might get hurt to find that story. They're better off going over there to those guys, those skinny guys. They won't get hurt.
I haven't seen the movie they made on it, but is there a character on you? Are you in it? Is there somebody playing you?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it's CGI or a real person, but yeah, they got the whole offense and the names, and they're dressed pretty appropriately. I think I was probably not quite as fat as the guy or the programmer who made the person wearing number 60. But yeah, no, we're all in it. It's pretty cool.
All right. In that championship game to get to the Super Bowl, you played against the Bucks and Warren Sapp, right? Now you had to go face to face with this guy. Obviously a great player, but also known for having horrible breath. Do you remember that at all when you played against him?
No, not at all. Do you know what his stats were for that game?
I don't think he got a sack.
0 sacks, 0 tackles for loss, 1 assisted tackle.
You owned him. Say it.
Wow.
Listen, he's still a great player, an absolutely great player. But, that was, for me, a very rare offensive line for a really tight group of guys that didn't just spend mandatory time at the facility together. We spent, us and our wives and families spent so much time together that Orlando would know what my call was going to be. We see those safeties rotate. I'd look at Fred. He'd know where the blitz is coming from. We were one brain operating in 5 separate bodies. Everything we did, we understood, which is a simple sound or, hey, watch it. Got it. 7-7, that we were all operating on the same page. So it was second to none, that offensive line.
All right, you said you're coaching now. So if I polled some of your current players, how would they describe you as a coach?
Probably intense, but very empathetic to real problems that a high schooler would face. Because I remember being there, and I remember not knowing what the hell's going on, or the rules of the game, or what's allowed and not allowed. I think they would say that Coach Groot really. I got something in my eye, guys. I'm sorry. Oh shit!
The aliens again.
I'm crying. No, listen. I really care about my players. Wait, let's play this. I really care about my players. I think about them. I start crying. It's a Coach Groot loves us. But no, I'm intense. I love them. I try to get the most out of them. I don't ridicule them because I know it's a hard thing to do. We're asking their bodies to do things that bodies aren't naturally supposed to do with the way you set or come up on the ball or hand placement. Your instinct as a human being is, I have to close my eyes and my face gets close to something. No, keep your eyes open in case this happens. No, ram your face into that. that's a good thing, stay low. So I would hope that they know that I love them and I'm empathetic to how hard it is to be a good offensive lineman.
You mentioned you spent some time living in Fort Lauderdale. I'm living in Fort Lauderdale right now. Lived out here pretty much my whole life. Why is Fort Lauderdale the best beach in Florida?
Fort Lauderdale is the second best beach in Florida because it's the original, man. The original Penrod's on the beach, brother. Spring break is spring break because of Fort Lauderdale and MTV. That's where it all started. But if you want to visit me and come out to Siesta Key, you'll see sand like no other, and clear emerald water like no other. And while I loved Fort Lauderdale, the one thing I never liked as a kid was getting the tar on my feet and seeing the oilers go by, the big oil vessels go by. We don't have that. Everything's laid back on this coast. We have powder, white sand beaches, a little bit of waves, nice breezes, cold drinks, brother.
All right, I gotta check out Siesta Key. I heard great things about it.
Oh man,
it's by Sarasota.
It's getting a little bit too overly built for me. When we first moved here, it was a little bit sleepy. It was still just as beautiful, but a lot of money is going into it. A lot of money. Where parking garages, buildings, high rises, nightclubs, and that's great for the growth. I love growth. But from what it was, it's just a little bit different for me, where my wife and I, like I said, my son is a junior. When he graduates and goes off to college, I'm going rural. I'm getting 50 acres where I don't see any neighbors, I don't see any people, and I can do my own thing.
All right, for those of you who may be watching this interview, this is a good visual. If you're listening, you'll have to trust me on this one. Behind Michael is a video game machine, a life-size, actual old school video game machine. It looks like Pac-Man, if I can read that behind you. So I got it on Michael. Who's got the high score on the Pac-Man game? Is it you? Is it your kid? Is it a friend of the family? Who's the high score?
This is the contentious thing here. So it's a Miss Pac-Man Galaga. Was it Namco it's called? Yeah, Namco machine that my wife and I bought for each other on our 5th anniversary in Arizona. My wife has had the high score on Miss Pac-Man for over 20 years, and I can't break it. Wow. And I don't adjust it. I don't adjust the speed. It's at true arcade settings, original arcade settings. And I had the high score on Galaga until my brother came over. And after he has all the high score spots, I think it shows 10 high scores. It all has MAG, Mark Anthony Gruttadauria, all the way down. Oh, I used to have one of these in my dorm at Florida State. We were great at that's all we did. We didn't even go out. We just drank beers and played Galaga. So this is my machine and I love it. I don't have a single initial on it.
Wow.
It's a tough break. You gotta unplug it and reset it or something.
No, it's in the hard drive. And listen, for those of you that know Miss Pac-Man, high score is 88, 420, baby. And if you know Miss Pac-Man, you know that's deep into the boards. That's a good score.
Wow,
it's impressive. You got your work cut out for you.
I can't even do it. I just play it now and have a beer and get 2 boards in and just enjoy it. I'm not looking for high scores on that anymore. But guys, thank you so much. Let me reminisce with you guys. I really appreciate it. I love what you do for our university. I'm excited to see where it's going in the Malzahn era. If I could make my life any better than it's been, and if it was possible for me to cheer any harder for UCF, the only way it could happen is if another Gruttadauria was snapping the ball at our fine institution, man. And he's going to work hard. And if it happens, great. If not, I'm still going to love my Knights no matter what.
How many years away is he? He's
a junior. He's got one FBS offer. We're going to a camp this weekend, and he's good. He's 260 pounds, 6'3". He's the strongest on the team right now, the 315-pound bench. I don't let him. I was extremely, and you know this because I have fake knees now and hips, but I was always the strongest. Well, I was either in the top 3 or the strongest squatter in every NFL team I was on, but I never did single squat maxes because that'd be too much with the weight I was pushing. If I was going to squat max, I would do a set of 6. So my son, because he can do over 500, let me try 550. You're not going to try 550. When you can do 500 for 2, 3, or 4, then we'll go up for something else for 2, 3, or 4. But with kids, their cores are too underdeveloped for me to feel comfortable letting them go too heavy. But that's a long-winded way of saying that he's a 315-pound bench and an over 500 squatter, and extremely smart because he has a great fucking coach.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got some stuff to get to. I know you squeezed us in tonight, so we definitely appreciate that. Michael Gruttadauria,
thank you guys.
UCF
really had a
alum,
great time. Thank you so much.
Super Bowl champ, and UCF Hall of Famer. Thanks so much for taking the time, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again real soon, okay?
Thank you so much, guys. God bless.
Thanks, bro.